I've been trying to decide what I wanted my first video to be on my anime channel, and I decided to land on My Hero Academia. Now, this video will contain some spoilers to anime watchers, but I will say that the anime will be getting to what I'm talking about very soon, and the reason I'm making this video is to avoid the confusion that the manga readers seem to have. I've even noticed confusion from YouTubers about this. It's probably due to translation errors or not reading official Viz translations, but so if you are an anime watcher, and you want to get to this point and this point confuses you, please do keep watching this video. With that out of the way, let's get started. So today in this video, I'm going to explain everything involving One For All. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, we know everything about One For All, Ashi. We've been dealing with it since the first episode of the show and the first chapter of the manga. But there have been some misconceptions, and obviously the quirk has complicated as the series has gone on. I want to undo some of those misconceptions and explanations, and we're going to start with the very first user of One For All, Yoshi Shigaraki, the brother of All For One. Now, I'm starting here for two reasons. One, because this is literally the beginning where it all started, and two, because this is the only part of the video that dips a little bit into theory. But with that out of the way, we all know the story of Shigaraki. He was the brother of All For One, and he was given the quirk to store up power. He was born with a weak body and was supposedly born quirkless. Now, over time, his body began to store up power, and then he later learned that he did in fact have a quirk. It was the ability to pass quirks on to other people. He, of course, later died and then passed this quirk on to the other users. Now, this is where things get into a little bit of theory, because see, when someone has a quirk, One For All will improve on that quirk as it's passed on. Now, we've seen an example of this in the My Hero Academia movie 2, where Bakugo was able to inherit One For All for sort of like a short amount of time, increasing his own quirk's power, along with giving him the insane super strength. Now, a lot of people would consider this not canon, but it's actually debated, because a lot of the movies have foreshadowed a lot of canon, and I imagine the third movie is also going to foreshadow some more canon for us. Now, I believe that by passing on the quirk, it's actually evolved even more to where he can temporarily give the power of One For All to other people, which gives more merit to the name, because if his brother's quirk is about taking the power from everyone, then why would the quirk named opposite to it not be about giving power to everyone? So these temporary transfers, such as through blood and not through full-on transfer, might actually hold some merit, and that movie scene where Bakugo goes full Super Saiyan might actually be canon, and it may be something we see in the manga. Also, the creator of My Hero loves to reference other animes, and this is sort of like Naruto sharing the nine-tailed power with a bunch of other people in the final battle against Madara. Now to move on to the second user, because we all know what happens to the first user. He dies and then passes on his quirk to the second user. The second user is actually the one that's still shrouded in the most mystery. We don't know his name, we don't know his quirk. The only thing we really know about him is that he took the fight directly to All For One. Now I believe that that's why the mangaka has not revealed his quirk yet, because his quirk is probably the most powerful out of the ones that Deku will inherit, given that it was bold enough for him to take action against All For One himself, and he probably had a quirk that complemented One For All perfectly. So I think his power will probably be something that will maybe be a regenerative factor, increase Deku's strength even more, maybe even increase all the quirks he has. It's a possibility, but I do think we will see the quirk or be hinted at the quirk in the third movie, because the movies tend to always hit at future things, such as movie 2 hinting at, well, the sharing of One For All with other people. In the first movie, of course, hinting at shoot style a little bit way before it was introduced in the manga. Now, the third user we do have a little bit more information on. We actually know his quirk, though we don't know his name. The quirk is called Fa Jin, and what Fa Jin is essentially it lets Deku store up kinetic energy by moving, and he can unleash this energy in either a hyper speed boost to his legs, such as like a really fast jump or really fast movement, imitating sort of All Might's maximum speed, or in a really powerful punch. Actually, this quirk has allowed Deku to imitate All Might's max strength, such as using a full, like, pseudo Manchester smash without any damage to him, because the stored up energy mixed with the 45% One For All that Deku has access to right now actually doesn't have any recall. So Fall Jin is actually an extremely useful ability. You just need time to build it up and use it properly. That's all the information we have on him, though. But don't worry, things are about to get interesting once we get to the fourth user. Alright, now on to the fourth user. Now, this is where things get interesting, like I said, but let's get his quirk out of the way first. His quirk is Danger Sense, and this is actually something we're pretty familiar with. It lets Deku sense dangerous things around him, or things that are uneasy or that may cause a problem. It's essentially Spider Sense. That's basically what it is. And of course, we do know that My Hero likes to pull a lot from comics, so this makes sense. The user, though, of the quirk is the important part. Hikage Shinomori. Why is he important, you may ask? Well, instead of trying to fight All For One, he actually ran away. He hid in the woods and trained his body and One For All to its fullest, okay? To gain as much power as he could when he passed it on. But at one point, at age 40, he hit his limit and died, not not from death, not from being attacked. He died of old age suddenly. Now, this is where the big misconception comes in. Everyone seems to think that now all One For All users will die at age 40, including All Might himself, who is 40 now. That is incorrect. See, the way quirks work is they're imprinted in your DNA. They're not a magical force like the Avatar state, even though some people seem to think One For All has very Avatar-esque qualities, and I will admit, being able to talk to the past spirits kind of feels that way. They are actually science. They are in your DNA. Now, when you put something that you already have, like say, an example, someone who is already a quirk user in his DNA, and you try to shove another quirk onto that, you're going to be burning through his cells because you're going to be trying to add something to his body that his body is not meant to handle. So, people who already have quirks that inherit One For All start to burn away at their cells faster, and the stronger the One For All gets, the faster it burns away. So, he died at 40, but that doesn't mean that All Might will, because see, they are the exception to the quirk rule. They were born quirkless, meaning their DNA has an open slot for a quirk. They can inherit One For All, and it just acts as their body's natural quirk, hence why All Might will not die of One For All, and neither will Deku, unless he, overuses it and explodes himself, obviously, but he shouldn't die from the age factor. In fact, that's what they try to tell you, but a lot of people seem to misconstrue that. Now, this is important because it would have mean that, say, someone like Mirio had inherited it, he would have died, so he dodged the bullet there, not getting One For All. But there's also one more important thing about Hikage Shinomori. Hikage Shinomori is the only one that we know of this age particular 40-year-old dying thing. And the reason for that is because all of the users after him died in battle. They didn't live until 40, so we didn't have any information on it. With the exception, of course, of All Might, who passed on his quirk at age 40. Now, before we go on to the 5th user, I'm going to add one more little thing to this. I also want to add in the part where they say that Deku will be likely the last One For All user. Is that because the quirk is too much and anyone who uses it will die instantly, not even in their 40s? No, that's because quirk singularity. People being born quirkless is less and less likely now, because of the quirk singularity. And I'll do a video on quirk singularity eventually. I'm not going to go into detail on it. It's very complex. But what they mean is the likelihood of someone else being born quirkless like Deku and All Might is almost 0% now in the current society. And that means anyone else who would inherit it, it would probably be too powerful and would probably kill them instantly when it tried to fuse with their already existing quirks. Now, the next quirk that we're going to talk about, you anime watchers have already seen, and that's Black Whip, wielded by Dagoro Banjo. Now, this quirk allows you to produce these dark light tendrils, and they've been seen to be used sort of like Spider-Man's web, or to bind people, or to even lift and save people. Now, this user we know a lot about. He's sort of aggressive, he was a bit of an angry guy, and he naturally is the first one to appear and talk to Deku. And we've actually seen his full body appear in the shadow beside Deku, almost like he's Deku's spirit animal or something. But there's not much else to say about him other than that. He died before 40 due to fighting All For One. Now, he passed the quirk on to a user named In, and we don't really know all that much about In except for the fact that they look like Kageyama crossed with Best Jeanist, and that their quirk is Smokescreen, and Smokescreen literally is what it says. It allows the user to create a smokescreen, sort of a diversionary tactic. Deku has used it in the manga to sort of get space between him and a sniper, but that's pretty much all there is to say about them. And then the final quirk is Float, which is wielded by none other than Nana Shinomura, and we know a lot about her, being that she was the one who trained All Might. Her quirk is Float, which allows you to levitate in the air. Now, it's not exactly flight, it just keeps you from falling, but if you combine Float with, say, I don't know, All For One's natural ability to jump, it does sort of imitate flight. We've seen Deku use Float to just sort of jump around from building to building, not fall. He's even managed to use Float to help pull people up from falling, such as Endeavor. It's a pretty interesting quirk, but that's all of them that we know of now, and I hope that this explains some of the confusion about One For All that's been floating around since the new quirks have been revealed, and since the previous users have started talking through Deku. And also, I want to add one more thing. If we're going to try to predict what the unknown quirk is, I've been trying to think about this for a while, and I was going to make a full video on it, but I think I'll just make my guess now. I think it's going to be some type of either regeneration-based quirk, or some type of emitting-based quirk, where he uses an attack similar to Bakugo, like he can just project something. Because that seems to be the only quirk that Deku is lacking at this point, is one that, basically allows him to full-on projectile attack. But if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you like the anime content, please subscribe. It took me a long time to put all this information together, and I really appreciate it. But until then, see you next time.